Okay, we made it.
We made it. We're live.
Obama. Thank you again so much for being here, Sam. So how long did you work at SpaceX? I'll just start with that.
Basically 2 years. I started in like mid 2021 and then I left towards like the end of 2023.
Okay. What was your position?
So my technical position was thermal protection technician, which is just like a fancy word for like working on the heat shield on the Dragon pods.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
What got you into that kind of, is it engineering technically, mechanical engineering, or I don't know the specific like
No,
field?
actually. So I had like no experience whatsoever. I actually had like a family friend who was working there that referred me. I was working somewhere else for like 6 years and I was just like tired of it. So
Oh,
I was like, I
okay.
need something different. I need something cool, and
Yeah.
they got me in. And yeah.
So you said you were like, your day to day was like welding?
No, honestly, it was more of like putting together like parts and
Like
like we
assembly?
made material, yeah, assembly basically. We made like material in-house, so we would have to like cut and like treat it with chemicals and
Gotcha.
cure it and then like form it into like different parts for like this massive heat shield.
Gotcha. You said for the Dragon Pod. So was it? Are there any specific launches that you know you worked on, or is it just kind of scattered among a bunch of different projects?
I mean, a few years ago I like knew the specific names, but I'm
Sure.
pretty sure I worked on at least four human missions. And then when I was working there, I was also part of the construction to send the civilian astronauts into space, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's
And
super
then
like
we did
unique
like a
work for
bunch
sure.
of, oh yeah, we did like a bunch of just like cargo pods too.
Yeah. That's the really shitty thing about Elon Musk, right? Is that he technically owns SpaceX or whatever. That, yeah, this company that like does cool stuff completely independent from the weird shit that he does. Like just like who he
Oh
is as
yeah,
a
dude. It
person.
was it's funny you bring that up because you remember when he got caught for basically sexually harassing that
It was a
he wanted to
stewardess.
hire a masseuse on his
Yeah.
plane, right? So they had sent an email after that had happened. I forget the lady's name, but she's like next in line on like the CEO totem pole. She said,
Gotcha.
I don't remember what it said verbatim, but it was like basically like, oh, I've known Elon for X amount of years. Like he's never acted weird or anything like
Oh
that. And I was
Jesus.
like, ew.
Yeah, there are.
Yeah.
It
I was like,
seems like,
that's a weird thing to say.
yeah, it seems like there is a beyond like what's public, a corporate on multiple levels, like in all of his companies, really, just a corporate like human shield of like CFOs and higher level management that do protect him and vouch for him constantly to like keep
Oh,
him,
definitely 100%.
yeah, keep him in power and keep his reputation, somehow like less stained than it actually is. Did you have like any interest in space like as a field before, or aerospace engineering or anything like that before you worked at SpaceX?
Honestly, no, I was just trying to get a bag.
Yeah, no, I respect that. That's a really interesting perspective, being kind of like almost like a tourist in a very like specific company.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, like nobody, I don't know a lot of people have like, yeah, I build rocket ship parts, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that was like kind of cool, but then like it lost its novelty after like I'd say 3 months.
What about it made it lose its novelty? Just the labor?
Oh man, just like yeah, just the way that labor is like structured there. Like in my department, we work 10-hour shifts 5 days a week
Jeez, yeah.
from 5 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
Holy shit.
And like typical stereotypical factory, like tall concrete walls, no windows, just like big open bay doors. So like
Damn.
in the winter it got super fucking cold and in the summer
Oh,
it was super fucking hot. And then like in my department specifically, we had like big industrial ovens, so when it was hot it was really fucking hot and it was all bad.
no way.
Yeah.
And what was like the work environment like? Were the people, other people working with you, friendly and like in the same kind of position, just looking for a bag, or were they more like dedicated SpaceX people?
So it was a good mix. Like there was people there who were just working for a bag, but
Mm.
like were also, worked well, doing the
Yeah.
kind of things that we did. There was people who were, interested in the SpaceX engineering and just getting a foot in the door. There was quite honestly like brainwashed people who were like we're going to send
All
people to
in.
Mars and,
Yeah.
we're doing, crazy things for human society, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then there's just people who like had worked in like material factories in general, and they're like, yeah, this one's like the best that I've worked at so far.
For sure. Maybe this is like a silly question from someone who worked like on the ground, but is Elon like a factor, not physically, but just like in day to day work? Like, do you hear about like stuff that he's deciding on or like stuff that he wants specifically or anything like that?
Not really,
Yeah.
no.
Do people talk about him at
No.
all?
So the thing is like whenever he was in Texas or Florida and he would do like his speeches for the company where he
Like
would
pep
talk to
rally?
like the large crowds of
Sure.
yeah, they everywhere in every department in every single building it was plastered on the TVs and like they would like let us like slow down production just to watch it, which I found kind of like annoying.
Yeah.
Because I was like, he says the same thing, and he,
Every time.
like
Yeah.
I love the way you make fun of him. Like that's exactly what he sounds like all the time. Like he says a bunch of nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure as like a worker, it's even more infuriating because you're just like, what am I getting out of this? If
Oh
people
yeah,
who do give a shit
exactly.
barely get anything out of it. Like, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. How many times did he stop by for one of those speeches while you
The
worked there?
time, so he never did any speeches where I worked at. I worked in
Gotcha.
headquarters, technically, in Hawthorne, California.
For sure.
But all of his speeches were like in Texas or Florida. But he did come visit, like I'd say maybe 3 times while I was working there, and it was like everybody was like, "Oh my God, Elon's here! Let's go see him!" Blah 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 blah
Right.
blah. And I'd be like, "Nah, I'm gonna stay over here. We got work to do. Like I
That's
don't really
funny.
care."
Do people have
And
like
everyone would
stories
be
about
like,
him or anyone that knew him like by proxy?
yeah, so when I first got hired, when they did our orientation, one of the orientation leaders, he had worked there since like the company started and he basically told us like, yeah, Elon was hard to work with, like we would sit down at the table for lunch and like he would just rattle off all these ideas and we would kind of have to talk him out of certain ideas, but
That's
also make it
awesome.
seem like he was the one coming up with the ideas. Like, yeah, that
Sounds about
was
right.
fucking hilarious.
I like that. I like setting the expectation of just like, yeah, his ideas suck.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So, do you mind if I ask? This is kind of a question from chat. Were the You don't have to answer if you don't feel comfortable, but was the pay okay for what it was? I know you were just there for the bag.
So, quite honestly, like the pay was dog shit. Like
Damn.
in terms of like working on rocket ship parts, it was
Yeah,
dog
you'd
shit.
think, right?
Like I got started off at $18 for
Jeez.
building rocket parts.
In that
Yeah, and
warehouse?
I in that warehouse, even with all the overtime and whatever, like
That's
$18
ridiculous.
is what I started off on. Yeah. Granted, it is kind of easy to move up and like get paid more, but
Sure.
it's like a lot of personal work.
Yeah,
Like
and it's hard labor too. It's not like you're not sitting in an office.
yeah, like we used to work from laptops. Like everyone had designated laptops to work from,
Sure.
to like assemble the parts and pieces. And they would be like, if you have downtime, like go into these classes that we have for you guys, and get all these credentials and set up the classes. But then like our bosses would be like, oh, don't go to the actual physical classes. Like we need you this day. So they would kind of like stagger when you could actually go to these physical classes to
Yeah.
get whatever qualifications that it was, whether it was like forklift, crane, torque wrenches, that kind
Sure.
of thing. So it was kind of like, it was just difficult.
No, for sure. And like, yeah, it doesn't seem like you want like there might be mobility, but there's not a lot of incentive for it if it's marginal
Oh, no,
increases each time,
no.
right?
Yeah, very marginal. Like you had to do a bunch of extra stuff in your downtime in order to get paid more.
Yeah, crazy. Have you heard about the Tesla Roadster supposedly being a collab between SpaceX and Tesla? And do you just have any thoughts on that? That was a question I had written down earlier.
I mean, I don't really, I fucking hate Tesla. I fucking hate Elon. So I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't really care. But the way that we built the parts and assembled everything, like, I honestly cannot tell you how we got people to space, to be
oh
quite frank.
shit. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was very sketch at times.
What do you specifically mean? Were there like any incidents that you witnessed or just like people that weren't like they didn't know their stuff or
So a lot of it was like the people that I worked with, like my colleagues on the floor, they had been there for a few years, so like
Mhm.
they knew the processes pretty well, and they could give like their inputs on it. But I feel like one of the biggest problems too was the engineers that we we worked with were all super young, like around my age, sometimes even younger.
Yeah.
I think you and I are the same age, so like,
Yeah.
ballpark that.
Holy
So
shit. Like
it was
early
just, it
20s.
was just like, yeah, it was just college kids like fresh out of like internship from
No way.
SpaceX. And, they had like, we're engineers at SpaceX. We're pursuing the human dream to be multiplanetary. And they were like really all about it and stuff. But like they were also getting fucking extorted because they would
Yeah.
work like 16, 18-hour days
Oh my God. But just to do the extra work.
just to do like just the engineering part. And they kind of abused like the just the regular floor technicians in terms of like they had options on like our step processes of like, oh, input what we can do better and like how we can word things better. So it was a
Yeah.
lot of just like us as technicians giving the engineers feedback and then them changing the steps and then being like, okay, now it's good.
Right. That doesn't that doesn't fix what you
Yeah.
initially pointed out. That's crazy.
Yeah. Or they would ask us like, "Oh, what do you think we should do?" And I'd literally be like, "Dude, you're the engineer. I don't know."
That's really interesting. It seems to mirror kind of like the Doge kids or whatever, like the team that Elon Musk especially initially went to with the White House was a bunch of 20 somethings from his companies, even SpaceX in particular, that were these like go getter, we're working extra hard for no pay,
Mhm.
serfs that are super into being owned by a billionaire. It seems like that kind of attitude pays off, and it's like encouraged in not just SpaceX. I've heard that it's encouraged in Tesla as well. It's just like simping for the company genuinely like
Oh yeah,
helps,
it's
and working more than what you're paid to do.
yeah, it's just the capitalistic dogma of like, waste your life until you can get a good pay. Maybe. Maybe.
Right, of course, it's always like the few that get picked out among hundreds of people, if not thousands, across all these companies that are probably trying to do that and not being successful. It's like a lottery.
Oh yeah.
That's
That's
nuts.
basically what it was.
I had no idea that the fucking intern thing is something that people actually have to deal with like on the ground at Tesla too. Like early 20 somethings just coming in and pointing at shit and demanding shit change is just that's crazy to me.
Oh yeah, yeah, we basically had like direct communication with them too. We used I think it was like Teams or something, and they
Slack or
would
something,
just
yeah.
like constantly like send us messages just like do this, do that. I need this done by this time. And
Oh
it's
my
like,
God.
well, we have all these like steps and processes in the way that are blocking us from,
Yeah.
it was a lot of hurry up and wait type work.
Oh man. That sounds really frustrating.
It was like I can't even tell you like my management would be like, why is this not being pushed? Why is this not being pushed? And I'd be
Right.
like, well, I've messaged the engineers, I've messaged the higher ups, like I'm trying to get this pushed. It's not my fault. And then they would get involved, and then they'd come back and tell me basically the same thing. And it's like, dude, I fucking told you that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it seems like a lot of inefficiency somehow.
Oh, so inefficient. So fucking inefficient, which is like super fucking hilarious about this whole Doge shit. Cause it's like,
Yeah.
if you worked for Elon Musk, you would know how inefficient his fucking companies are.
No, for sure. And they do fraud and abuse too, on top of it all.
Yes, fraud and abuse.
Were there any other like serious issues that you saw just in the like I guess kind of chain of command or the way labor was delegated overall? It seems like
Um,
a lot of like you said, a lot of make work, a lot of meetings and emails type shit.
yeah, definitely. Like every morning we had like a team meeting, which is pretty
Sure.
normal, just delegating like who's gonna do what, who's gonna work on
Yeah.
what the expectations are. And they would really hound on us like we got to get this done by this day of this month, and we got to ship this by this day of this month, and it was very just like, come on guys, we got to go. And the fucked up part was like we were meeting our quota, and because we were meeting our quota, they're like, okay, hire more people so we can make a faster turnout,
Right.
basically.
Meeting your quota just means you can do more.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. That's nuts.
And there was also like a big difference between like the first shift and the second shift. It was a lot of first shift having to pick up the pieces of second shift. And that part I just didn't understand because like I
Yeah.
had even trained some people on that shift. And I'm like, I trained you, you've been trained by other people. Like, why is this not being done faster?
Right.
It just felt like a waste of like my time.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Were you paid extra for training people?
Sometimes.
Sure.
But thankfully, like my management wasn't so like frugal, like
Right.
they would fight for us in terms of like giving us incentives, which is like something that I appreciated, but at the same time, like it was like,
There's only so much they could do.
maybe a couple $100. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that. That's really interesting. Yeah, we just covered that Musk wants people on Mars, 1 million people on Mars in 20 years, which, I don't know if you want to give your take on how realistic that is considering your insight, but 1 million
I
people.
mean, I think me as well as a lot of people in this community realize that it's bullshit.
For
And,
sure.
the only people he's gonna take to Mars is the only ones who can afford it, and he's gonna piss the rest of us away,
Yeah.
like, and then also like I'm of the opinion of like he has all this money, why can't he fucking fix Earth first before he goes to Mars? Like he can do it, he just doesn't want to because he's
Yeah.
fucking evil.
No, for sure. It just goes to show that, like, even within these companies that are supposedly, the credibility for him doing all of this like heinous shit to the government, they're mismanaged. They're delegated to other people that don't really they might have expertise, but they're also battling him if they're actually like directing these companies because he has stupid ideas that get in the way. But it's ultimately
Oh
just
yeah.
run on this like crunch system of throwing people at problems until ignoring the losses at the margins until you inevitably basically hit like a jackpot of we finally did a rocket launch and we got a government contract as a result. So all this loss on the labor level is worth it because that's just people's fucking livelihoods and their stress and their time.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we pulled the government contract for the company, and the stocks are up.
Yeah, like they would tell us like, like we got a new government contract, like this is what they expect of us,
Really
this is what they want us to do, and
interesting.
yeah, and so I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. We get a lot of government contracts for a guy who fucking hates the government."
Yeah, weird, right? That's so
Yeah.
funny. They don't even try to like they don't even try to hide it internally because I mean I guess you can't, but it's like, yeah, why would he hate the government so much if if he's making
Yeah,
40
exactly.
billion
Exactly.
dollars in contracts? Like, anyway, I think I can turn it to chat if there's any other questions that chat had, because I that was all my written down questions. I do want to thank you again for your time and for sharing your experience with us. Is there any like stories that you have in the meantime that
Oh
you would
yeah,
want to
I've
share?
got so many fucking stories, dude. Like
No
the
way.
just the workers there, it's like the typical blue collar like misogyny bullshit, dude. It was bad.
Yeah.
Like for example, anything that had to do with like what I worked on specifically and other people were working on it, they would come and ask me questions about it. I'd give them an answer. It would be the right answer because again, I'd been doing it for X amount of time,
Yeah, you
And
knew
then
your
they'd go
shit.
ask somebody else and they would tell them the same shit and they'd come back to me and I'd be like, I fucking told you. Like, why did you go ask someone else?
Right.
And then they would be like, and I'm like, it's because I'm a girl, huh? And they'd be like, like,
Right.
yeah. And I was very outspoken. And I think part of the problem too was me being like mass presenting. All the guys thought I was like one of them, So they
Interesting.
would like
Yeah.
tell me all their like tomfoolery and shenanigans. And I'd be like, dude, you're gross.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, they tried to like kind of let you in on the joke a little bit.
Yeah, or anytime like a woman would walk by, didn't matter if she was super attractive, conventionally attractive. If it was just a woman that walked by, all the dudes would break their neck and they would just like talk about it. And I'm like, you
Oh,
guys are so
gross.
gross. Like, why?
No
And like the
way.
fucked up part was a lot of them were like married and had kids and had girlfriends. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, that's crazy. And it's definitely not like a coincidence that it's the fucking nasty pig 15 baby Sig Hail
Hmm.
guy that is the, guy employing all these like pigs to his space company.
Yeah, yeah, it was bad. Like, there was a couple times where I would be walking with another coworker from different buildings to do work, and he saw a woman walk by, and like he looked at her, but then he like totally like turned around and like broke his neck, and I like pushed him, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? Like you're being creepy. And he was
Yeah.
like, oh, she's hot or whatever, and I'm like, dude, I get it. Like you can look, like there's nothing wrong with looking, but don't be a fucking creep about it. Like that's
Right.
gross.
Did
He literally told me he was like, it's just a guy thing. You wouldn't understand, and I'm like, no, I think I understand pretty fucking well,
like
dude. Like I
looking at
like
a
women
person.
too, and
Yeah.
yeah.
You just don't understand looking. You just don't know what that is. That's
Yeah,
so
no,
crazy.
because you don't look at women, you don't date women, you wouldn't get it.
Did you ever talk to other women at SpaceX about how they felt about it?
There was one other woman that like I guess developed like a friendship with, but to be honest, there wasn't a lot, and
Sure.
the ones that were there were very standoffish because of the work culture, which is completely
I'm
understandable,
sure. Yeah, it explains a lot if they're, being
Yeah.
harassed actively. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
I would try to be like, look, like, I know I look this way, but I promise I'm not one of them. Like, if you ever need, like, another girl to talk to, like, I got you, because, like, it's tough working here. Trust me, I
Right.
know.
For sure. Yeah. No, that I mean, it's
Yeah,
nice that you did that.
a lot of other women definitely dealt with like just misogyny and borderline harassment. It was pretty gross, to be honest. Really
Yeah.
gross.
No, that's really gross. And I've heard, again, this is just like mirroring other testimonies that I've heard from people that have worked not just at SpaceX, but at Tesla too. That it's predominantly men that are hired, especially in higher up positions and positions of power or management. And women are just forced to deal with whatever the culture becomes. And it almost always becomes this same culture. It's
Oh yeah.
repetitious. It's a pattern in these companies. It's really fucking weird and really gross.
Yeah, I think part of the problem too was like they would do like a lot of company outings to like kind of, keep our morale high and
Sure.
whatnot. But basically that just meant we got to pick a bar and get fucking hammered at whatever
Jesus.
bar,
Yeah.
and just you get a group of like 20 plus men and they get drunk, like it gets really fucking messy.
God, that's bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it was yeah, that was like the only thing too is like, oh, we can go somewhere to eat and drink. Like
Hmm.
everything's paid for by the company. But it was like mostly on the drinking.
It's not like there's nothing else to do. You know what I mean? It's just there's I think
Yeah, exactly.
it's like a hangover from the kind of frat boy culture that these companies are clearly like trying to employ from with what it seems like, especially with the interns too.
Oh yeah, definitely. I also think too a big part of it was like because it's like the blue collar culture that you had a lot of these men who were like didn't want to go home because they're like I hate my wife.
Oh God.
I don't my kids are at home, I just
Yeah.
want to drink and my wife gets mad at me when I stay out late and drink. It's like, yeah, no fucking shit, dude. You got kids at home. Get your ass home.
Yeah, that's so much to like deal with like from your coworker. That's just messy. Like not that it's super
It
unusual.
is,
It's
and
just God.
I try to be like, "Oh, how are your kids doing?
Yeah.
How's your wife doing? How's your girlfriend doing?" And like just the way that they talked about them, I was like, "Dude, these guys hate them." Like
Jesus.
that's so weird.
Yeah.
I remember one time my girlfriend had gone to visit her cousin out in Utah, and I was telling my coworkers that she was in Utah visiting her cousin or whatever, and one of them goes, "You let her go to Utah?" And I looked at him and I was like, "I didn't let her do anything.
Oh my
Like
God.
she's visiting her cousin. She's a grown woman. She can do whatever she wants to do."
Yeah.
And he was just like, "Nah, nah, that wouldn't fly with me." And I was like, "What the fuck do you mean, dude? Like, hello?"
That's wild.
Yeah, I was like, "Dude, like," and this guy had a kid too, and I was like, "That's the mother of your child, and like that's how you view her? Like that's so gross."
Yeah, for real. Like she doesn't have autonomy.
Yeah, basically, and there was like a lot of fucked up shit in terms of like all these people had family members and partners that like didn't have papers,
Oh
so they could just
shit.
kind of like bullshit whatever they wanted to do. Like
God,
the
that
same guy
sucks.
told me that he likes to travel a lot, right? So he'd go to Colombia a lot, and he basically told me like, what I do in Colombia is what I do in Colombia because my marriage is only valid in the United States. And I was like, I don't
That's
think that's
not
how that works, man. But
uh-uh.
do what you want to do, I guess.
Oh my God. Yeah, real stand-up individuals at the Elon Musk companies only.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And they
Holy
all
shit.
like loved him.
Of
They
course.
all loved him. They all thought he was like the greatest fucking dude ever, the coolest fucking guy. And I would ask them like, why is he so cool? And they're like, he's a billionaire. He
Yeah.
owns companies. And I'm like, okay, so he's a celebrity. Okay, so like that was it. That was it. They
Yeah.
were like, this guy's cool because he's rich.
That's wild. And how many think
Like,
about how
dude's
many
built
kids
like a
he has
Ninja
to hate.
Turtle.
Yeah, he is. Ask her if Elon or SpaceX has done anything to screw over NASA and get ahead. Do you have any info on that, on like the relationship between SpaceX and NASA in general?
Personally, I did work with like NASA engineers and like overseers, like quality inspection.
Hmm. A lot of that's
NASA always
collaborative
had to
though.
work with us.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. NASA always had to work with us whenever we did human missions, which makes
makes
sense
sense.
because it's
Yeah.
fucking NASA and we're only SpaceX.
Right.
But in terms of like, I don't know, like I guess the companies were pretty tight. Like they would ask a lot of us sometimes to go down to Florida and Cape Canaveral to go work there on
Cool.
their set they have there.
Yeah.
Which was like, it was like okay because they're like, we'll pay for your hotels, your food, whatever, whatever. But
Yeah,
then,
work trip.
they would be like, oh, it'll be 2 weeks, and then like a lot of people would get stuck out there for a month. or
Oh shit.
longer, you know. So it was not,
No
yeah,
way.
it wasn't very precise with what they promised in terms of that.
They so were they just not getting like flights back on time or like making people get their own or something?
No, it was like we have this much work to do and like we're not finished, so like you have to
Oh,
stay and finish it because
that's
you've been working on
crazy.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, you can't leave until the work's done. Sorry.
Trapping you in Florida.
Yeah, and Florida's a fucking god awful place,
No,
man.
it's a nice place to visit for a weekend and maybe not much longer at a time.
Yeah. I used to drive a truck cross country,
Yeah.
and my last trip to Florida, saw two of the like biggest Confederate flags that you can,
Jesus.
you know, like the big American flags that they fly. I saw like two of them there, and I was only near like Orlando, and I was like, this is gross. And when you drive into Florida, it literally says like, "Welcome to the free state of Florida."
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is bullshit, you know?
Free state. Yeah. Education free
Yeah,
now.
free state.
That's awesome. Where are you working now and is it better?
I'm looking for other work
Oh, okay.
right now.
Respect.
Yeah,
I know the
what do
job
you call
market's
it? I'm
fucked
just
right
trying to
now.
get like a, oh yeah. Thankfully I have like years of experience. I started working when I was 16, you know,
Same.
typical American dream type shit.
Yep.
But like I've got a lot of experience, so I'm just looking for something that's like easy, just to have money in the bank, and then eventually I want to go back to school and like get involved, union, local government, cities, whatever, literally whatever I can get my little fingers in, you know?
That's awesome. I have a lot of respect for that. Big question. There's a lot of news about Tesla factories with insanely bad working conditions, including OSHA violations. Was there ever anything like that at SpaceX? I'm genuinely curious as a Texan who lives near the Tesla factory that produces Cybertrucks. Yeah, any word on the working conditions, like safety wise?
Oh yeah, it was fucking awful to be honest.
Holy shit.
We had like an environmental department on grounds that would, you know, they would come collect all the like chemical trashes and whatnot and do audits in terms of like where our chemicals were stored and how they were stored.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was put on us as the techs to be like, hey, if you see anything that it's like out of like
It's like out of
if this
order.
looks like out of order or against our like environmental rules, like send like take a picture and like send a report on it. And they would make us do a certain amount of reports, environmental reports, like per month. And it was just like, why can't you just hire more environmental people
Yeah.
to do the job?
Yeah, they're just
Yeah, it was just it was,
putting the job on you to report everything when the regulator should be doing their own job. Like, that's crazy.
yeah. A lot of it too was we worked with a lot of deadly chemicals. To be
Yeah.
quite frank, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but one of them that we did work with was formaldehyde.
Right.
So you know that's cool. And like a few times, like the environmental team would come out with like testers for like you know testing chemicals like that are airborne and during the processes that we do. And you know they provided PPE, like they
Right.
gave us respirators and things like that, which was you know nice, but like it was like bare minimum, you know.
Sure.
But the specific material that we made in house was very very dusty, like super fine dust. Like you touch it and it was just like
Whoa.
yeah, like it would just go up into the air. So like the whole work area was just covered in this dust, and like you could literally see the particles flying in the air at times. And every day, like I would walk down from the entrance, and as soon as I got into my work area, just like congestion, sneezing,
No way.
you could tell like it was it bothered me, so I knew it was
Yeah.
bothering other people. And so they would do like live testing, and then after all their testing was done, they were basically like, yes, all of these chemicals are in the air, but they're at like a normal range that wouldn't be harmful. And I'm like, dude, we're
Mm,
not supposed to be breathing this shit in, period.
at
You know what
all.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like
It's not that bad, though. That's
it's not
crazy.
that bad. Like you won't die. You might get cancer in 20 years, but not right now.
God, I'm so sorry. That's insane.
And the fucked up part too is that part of when you get hired and you sign like your NDA and your contract,
Right.
it says in the contract that you can't sue SpaceX if you do get any type of illness from working with the chemicals.
No
Like you have to
liability.
sign that. It's part of your contract. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty wild.
Sounds about fucking right. That's nuts. You said there's adequate PPE, but were there any other like hazards other than just the particulates or whatever's in the air?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we always had overhead cranes going on in different areas, so like obviously you had to block off whatever area you were using the crane in.
Yeah.
But we also worked with like pressurized air and oxygen tubes that we would have to connect to certain adapters. So they would just be like in the floor, like in panels. And sometimes people would just leave those panels open and like not put anything nearby to let people know that it was open.
No
And
way.
someone on the second shift fell through one of those panels and cut up his leg and everything. Like
Oh
it was just
shit.
like shit like that that you would think, would have precautions taken for, but
Yeah.
it was just like, oh, like people know that they're there, so like don't step in it.
Yeah, just look out. Don't breathe too hard. Don't step
Yeah,
in the wrong spots, you know.
yeah, like there was we worked with acetone and alcohol, like
Mm.
100% acetone and alcohol,
Yeah.
and there was a fire that broke out at one
Holy
point in like
shit.
the apartment next to us.
6 months
Yeah,
war,
I
that's a
wasn't there,
winner.
but
Love
they
you,
showed us the
Piden.
video and like they were using some sort of grinder on a specific part, and because a lot of it you have to clean with alcohol because it's a lot of metal. That we worked with acetone or alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a fire that broke out.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Something from like a crane fell on someone's head one time.
Oh
So
my
that
god.
was yeah, it was wild. It was like early in the morning too. This poor guy, it was like
Oh,
6 in the morning and he just got straight up bonked by this heavy piece of metal
unsecured.
and he had to get walked out and stuff.
Oh.
And I just remember looking at one of my coworkers. I was like, dude, like what if he's got like, hematoma or something like that,
Yeah.
And he's like, what if his brain's bleeding? And I was like, dude, that's what I just fucking said.
That's so annoying.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, well, I'm sorry, like,
I just don't know
what do you
words that
call
good.
it? Blah." And I was like, "Just read a little bit, dude.
Yeah.
Like, just read, please."
I mean, I could definitely see why the job lost its allure after a certain period of time. It did not seem like the best fucking place to work.
No, like the work culture was gross. The
Yeah.
time crunches were just sometimes unreasonable. It really took away from the fact that like, oh, we're sending people to space because of also the processes of like what we did to like work on these parts and assemble these parts. It's like I know I'm doing all the steps correctly, but like there would be so many issues with different steps in the process that I was like, is this going to be like safe for flight?
Yeah.
Maybe they tell you like, no, 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 it's fine, it's fine. The engineers wrote off on it, it's fine. And I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't
those
fucking
Let's
engineers.
know.
insanate this country,
Yeah.
goddamn.
Yeah.
Big respect, Sam. Love you, guys.
The chat loves you, by the way. They're very very supportive.
I love chat. Chat's great.
Could you ask about the leaving process? Yeah. So did you just put in your 2 weeks and leave, or did you blow up a rocket on your way out? Or...
I wish. No, basically, I just like went on disability. I have scoliosis, and
Mm,
I got okay. So I got super depressed from working there. Just like I got
understandable.
no sunlight. Talking to people. Like I met one true comrade out of like the 11,000 people that worked there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there was other cool people, but like some of them were either like, oh, I'm a centrist or like, oh, I was in the military. So they kind of had
Right.
like a skewed view on certain things, but like for the most part they were like decent people. But I met one comrade and him and I would just talk shit all day, like on Teams and stuff, send each other links like
That's awesome.
I would fucking watch your stream or I'd watch Hassan's stream or
That's
fucking
awesome.
Denims during work because I
Yeah.
was like, I need to get through the day because like I can't like I'm like literally withering away here. But
Totally.
yeah, so I went on disability because I was like, I can't fucking stand this place. Like I can't do it. I can't do
Yeah.
it anymore. Like it's breaking me. And then I was just like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna quit. I was able to do that because I do technically have scoliosis. It's a sport related injury from when I
Sure.
was like 16 or whatever. So, like my X-rays show like yeah I do have back problems or whatever. So I was able to go on disability, but then I was like I can't go back.
Yeah.
I would call off like once a week. I was like I can't keep doing this. Like I'm literally withering away.
I'm really glad that you decided to leave for your own sake because, yeah, it sounds like it was hard to even survive.
It did become pretty difficult to survive, especially just like going into the same environment every day, 5 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And also part of my contract too was bi-weekly we had to work 6 days.
Oh, jeez. That's so
So yeah,
shitty.
I was doing what was it, like 110 hours every 2 weeks?
Oh my God, that's way too much
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes we had to work 12s.
for such important
That, yeah,
shit
it
too.
was,
Like it's so crazy.
yeah. And I would just be like, dude, hire more people. Like, I know we have 20 people, but like, we obviously need more. So just fucking hire more people.
For
And
sure.
just, they wouldn't. They were like so picky and choosy after like a certain point. And it's like, how are you going to give us all this overtime and then you give us all these expectations and deadlines, but you're not going to hire more people? Like, that doesn't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. I mean, typical corporation shit, but I feel like specifically Musk's corporations take the lead on this stuff. They do the breaking first, so Target can also do it. They can also run skeleton crews and
Yeah.
never hire anybody. I think that's part of why the job
Oh,
market's
yeah.
in such a shitty position because people love to say no one wants to work anymore, but no one's hiring. No one's actually hiring for like honest work that will support
Yeah,
you.
and then the work that is available, it's like it's the conditions are so shitty that like yeah, of course people don't want to work. Like they don't want to slave away for pennies on the hour, you know.
Exactly. No, for sure.
There was definitely a culture there too, because a culture of like blue collar and white collar, because the engineers
Right.
were also there too, and they had like their own separate section with like the nice cubicles and the stand up desks and all that stuff, and they could like personalize the little areas and like just like
They didn't have to breathe in
just
as
the
many
attitudes.
particulates and
Yeah,
metals.
and they got to wear sandals,
Uh,
which was like a no-no, even just in like just the whole building itself because it is an open factory. Like you're supposed to
yeah.
wear closed-toed shoes just in case.
Right.
We specifically had to wear like steel toe or like composite toe, but these engineers are wearing fucking flip-flops and shit.
That's
And they would
annoying.
come into our area all fucking like, oh, this is what you got to do. This is what I'm checking out. And we'd be like, dude, get the fuck out of here with your sandals. Like, you can't be in here. And they'd be like, no, 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 it's fine. I'm only going to be here for 10 minutes.
Oh
And
my
it was just
God.
like that kind of like disassociation between like the actual like laborers and then the engineers who were working on the computers a lot.
Yeah.
Granted, like a lot of these engineers worked longer hours than we did. But they were also on salary too, which really
Right.
fucking sucks for them. But even just like the social interactions, like going to lunch or taking a break and just running into like a group of engineers versus like a group of like laborers, it was just like they looked down on you, like they looked at you weird,
That's
and it's
crazy.
just like I'm producing what you're, drawing out. Like don't fucking look at me like that.
Right. You're the one doing the physical part. It's so annoying. What because
Yeah.
what they went and got a fucking comp sci degree or something from wherever. Like it's just there's a lot of elitism I think in like working class circles in that same way. It's like these STEM guys think they're hot shit because they were told to learn the code and they were the guys that did it and managed to get a job doing it, but everyone else that learned the code's making a crypto coin because they can't get a job.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just a lucky few,
Like,
you know.
it was, yeah, very, very much so the lucky few. And just, interacting with them, you could just tell that, like, they weren't cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
Like, at least with, like, the laborers, you could tell, like, a lot of us had, like, similar backgrounds, similar cultures, similar family styles. But a lot of the engineers were, put it quite frankly, were just, they were rich. They had more money than us laborers. So
Yeah, they're
they
privileged.
were able to do, like, the unpaid intern. Yeah, they were privileged. They had the money to do the unpaid internship and then get hired and get put on a salary, and they're like 21 years old, 22 years old,
Yeah.
telling us what to do, telling laborers what to do who have been there for longer than like these engineers have been able to work. It was, yeah, it was pretty frustrating.
No, for sure. That sounds super frustrating, and especially when there are already like accidents happening and like shit going wrong that you guys have to deal with. They're protected from all that, whether it's their fault or
Oh
not.
yeah, definitely. There was like some problems in terms of like launches with like human missions. Because I signed an NDA, I don't know how much I'm allowed to like publicly say because
Okay.
we're technically only allowed to say what's available to the public. But basically, like there was a lot of problems with some missions that wasn't made out to the public but was
Interesting.
told to workers, and we were kind of just like, how the fuck did that happen?
No
you know?
way.
And the engineers would come to us and be like, this and this and this and this was the problems, and we'd be like, we were following your blueprints. Like, how are you going to yell at us? Like, you guys drew up the fucking blueprints.
Yeah.
This is your instructions.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of how did that happen over there.
Oh, 100%.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm so curious, but yeah, don't get yourself in trouble telling too much.
Oh no, no, yeah.
God, well, holy shit. Thank you so much for your time, for your
Yeah, thanks for having me.
perspective. This was a super interesting conversation. I hope Chad agrees. I hope you had a good time as well, Sam. Thank you.
Oh, I had a great time. I love your stream. I love
Oh, thanks.
chat. I've been watching your shit for I think since like 2021,
Wow.
so
Wow,
big
you're an
fan,
old
big
head. Holy
fan.
shit. Thank you so much.
Very old head.
Yeah, that means a lot. I really appreciate that. Especially, fellow like working class people, people who like have had to work like odd jobs and shit. That's like who I was raised by. That's who I was before YouTube, like doing what like you can. I really have a lot of respect for you and your perspective. I'm really appreciative that you wanted to share how much you fucking went through at SpaceX. Like I can't say it enough. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me. And like I said, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate this chat. Like, appreciate all the work you've done. Like, you've helped me, like, change perspectives on like certain things. And
Oh, holy
it's
shit,
just
that's
great.
awesome.
It's great to be part of a community that like is, like-minded and like wants better for everyone.
Totally. Well, solidarity. Thank you so much. And have a great
Yes,
one.
solidarity. Thank you. You too. I mean, I'll be watching the rest of your stream,
Yeah,
but
okay. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
yeah.
All right, bye.
Bye, chat.
All right, everybody. That was Sam, O Sleeping Dreamer, in chat. Thank you so much. That was an incredible interview. I'm really glad I had the opportunity to do that. I'm still getting used to doing interviews, so I'm sorry, chat, if it was a little rough. But I think that was great. That was awesome. I hope everyone enjoyed. And if you're watching this video on the second channel, you can like and subscribe and check out my podcast for more classic conversation and interesting dialogue and dialect.